KTLK AM 1150, your voice. I'm David Cruz. Okay, we get down to this Fiscal Cliff thing. Okay, you've heard all the pontification today about how great it is. Wall Street loved it because they obviously have averted the losses that they were fearing. I want to know what it really means for you and me. Is it really anything more than just kicking the can again? Professor Peter Mathews is on with us, a political analyst from Cypress College. Peter, welcome to the program.
Hey, good to be here, Dave. How are you?
Thank you. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and all our listeners, too.
Should we be celebrating about what they've come to, at least in this first attempt? Is it really an improvement?
Well, it's just a halfway step because it took care of the tax increases that were going to be put in on most of us. Instead, it delayed that. It put off those tax increases, but it also delayed the cuts, the spending cuts, or sequestration that's going to be coming in within 2 months.
And you see
that's the biggest part. They kicked the can down the road on that one.
Yeah, that's the part, Peter, that I'm thinking really was their big motivator. Can you imagine what their defense contractor partners and sponsors and donors would have said if they start losing contracts? I mean, that more than the plus for you and me, I think is what was moving their butts. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. That's their big donors, and the defense contractors were standing to lose a whole lot of hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's what got them to push it down 2 months away. But we got the same problem 2 months from now, Dave. Same old arguments will come up. Let me give you a number here.
Yeah.
The top 1% who received a slightly higher increase in income tax, 4.6% on incomes over $403,000 household, that's the top 1% of the population. This same top 1% gained 11.6% of the income in real income growth between 2009 and 2010. They've gained 11.6%, which means they'll be basically coming out ahead, even though their taxes are going up by 4.6%.
Is that
I think that's going to be very interesting. Yeah, I think it's a good thing that Obama went ahead and compromised and did not tax incomes over $250,000, because that's, like you said, in California, it's not much. It's not a lot of money, you know. But when he decided to raise income tax on incomes over the $450,000, he should have gone up a little higher, I think, to make things to balance the budget. Otherwise, because don't forget, when he did this, and when the House agreed and the Senate agreed, this takes out about $1 trillion in the final agreement from the government.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost actually $1 trillion more that they could have brought in if he had stuck to the $250,000, or if he had raised the rates a little bit more on the incomes over $403,000.
Now, Boehner went against some of his own people in the vote. I mean, there's division within the GOP. Any idea, although I do care more about what it means to you and me, but let's face it, the Tea Party people, some of them are very, very angry. Then there was division within the GOP. How do those tea leaves, how do those read tonight?
It reads very interesting from an outside observer because they got a major split in the party, and Boehner has to hope he'll still vote, but they'll still vote for him to get him back in as the speaker. Cantor is, of course, on the Tea Party side. He voted against the agreement. So it's looking really pretty crazy. The tea leaves are stirring pretty bad. I'd like to see what happens in the next couple of days to conclude on it.
Peter, I predicted that they would not reach an agreement, and I committed that I would come clean today. I was halfway wrong or halfway right because they can say we reached an agreement, and they didn't do it, in time, but that's all right. I mean, look, they've got this agreement, but as you pointed out, and this is where I'm really going to hold their feet to the fire, it is what kind of an agreement do we really have? For the average person, does it really change our lives today, or is it going to put things in limbo?
It puts it in limbo. I mean, it did, in fact, extend unemployment benefits.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
And it also extended the credits that college students get and some of the other individuals who make less money get tax credits, earned income tax credit, extended that. But it doesn't do much at all for the bulk of the middle class except keep us from having to pay a whole lot more, although we will still be paying more in the payroll taxes. That's going to come back. 2% of our incomes are going to be hit once again as they were before the last 2 years. For 2 years, we had a 2% reduction in payroll tax. Now 2% of our income more will be taken from the government, by the government from us. And a person making between $100,000 to $200,000 a year will pay $17,000 more in $1,700 more.
Yeah, $1,700.
Payroll taxes, yeah. And the middle person from $75,000 to $100,000 income will pay about $1,200 more. So it's going to go up in taxes slightly it's still a good amount for some middle-class folks. That's a lot of money. That's the money for gas right there.
The other
You know?
The other thing that this discussion, and it's not something you and I, where I didn't brief you on, but I think that this whole fiscal cliff thing is going to put immigration off, and I predict it into the spring or maybe even summer, given that the focus right now is still on the money issue of the fiscal cliff and a 60-day extension now in this process. Would you agree that maybe immigration gets moved off front burner, maybe into not midsummer, I'm going to say late spring, early summer, at least?
At least that delay will be there, Dave. That's unfortunate because that issue of immigration needed to be settled and fixed. But it may even go further than that because don't forget, there's a problem now with the debt ceiling.
Yes.
That's going to be another debate on top of this other debate that's going on in 2 months. So from 2 months, that debt ceiling debate can keep on dragging on even further, and that could jeopardize the American government's credit once again. And the Republicans will use that as leverage to try to get even bigger spending cuts than what they had suggested before. So this thing is not over yet. It's a shame that immigration reform will be put off because that's something that should be, in my view, should be a top priority. And President Obama won a big part of the Latino vote as well, other votes of immigrants, and he needs to reward them.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I am not happy about the way it's turned out, and let me tell you something that something is better than nothing, except that in this case, this something is something we talked about before on at least 2 occasions, and here we go again. There seems to really be a lack of leadership right now in D.C., and we'll see, of course, how it all trickles down to us, the taxpayer.
It's absolutely right. It's kicking the can down the road because of lack of leadership, but also because who is it that donates money to campaigns of this top 1% that gets all the tax benefits, the over $450,000 a year? Those are the guys that give money to campaigns mostly, and mostly the Republicans. And the Republicans don't want to raise tax on the rich. They barely were able to do it, They probably had a big stomach ache when they did it, or worse than that.
Absolutely.
And yet they did it because they had to, or the country would have gone into a recession for sure.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for being with us, Peter. Keep an eye on this thing for us. When we come back, we're gonna listen to President Obama and also have some additional things on the fiscal cliff. Peter, thank you very much.
You're welcome, David. Talk to you later.
Peter Mathews, professor and a political analyst from Cypress College here in Southern California. Coming back, we do hear from President Obama. We'll also talk about some of the effects that this is having on other important agenda items right now. Chris Christie weighing in on that. Hey, we're commercial free the next half hour. Keep it right here. KTLK AM 1150, your voice.